So you're about done with your project and it's sounding pretty good. You've trimmed the edges of your audio clips, you've assembled them in ways so that the sound effects are appearing at the right times. You have adjusted all the different levels of each track so that it creates a nice balanced mix so that no track is too loud or too quiet. You've listened to the master channel, the master track, and made sure that the peaks are somewhere in the -6 to -12 range. -18 is okay too, but it's peaking somewhere in this range and not getting too loud. And you're ready to bounce. Well, let's show you how we bounce around here. I'm going to zoom out a little bit so that we can get an idea of our overall project. This top track here, I'm going to go back to waveform on this top track. There we are. And we say, okay, there's the end of my track. Now what I could do is I could just go to bounce right now, and it will go to the end of the longest track. So this narration track is the longest one right here. So it would go right to about here, I would assume, which if I look up in the timing window up there, if I click right about there, it would be roughly 59 seconds, maybe a little bit longer. And I go, perfect. So I could just go to bounce and it would bounce everything from there on back to the beginning into a file. However, if I zoom out a little bit further, what if by mistake I had actually left a piece of audio over here that I hadn't realized? And so I'm zoomed in and I'm thinking about this going, yeah, it's all good. It's going to be a minute long, and I bounce it and then I just submit it. What you'll end up submitting is a nice sounding ad that goes to about a minute, and then you'd have from 1 minute to 1:30, you'd have about 30 seconds of silence and then one more sound effect, which would be pretty weird. And then, so the actual length of your file would be 1 minute and 33 seconds. And like the grading for this assignment means if for every, I think it's 3-second block, is it, that you're over 60 seconds, you get marked down 1 grade. So for 30 seconds, that's like 10 3-second blocks. So that'd be a deduction of 10 grade steps for doing that. I would probably apply the mercy rule after knocking it down a few grades and not really take all that. But you don't want to do that, right? No, of course not. So here's the better way to make sure that you are getting just the right amount. If you zoom in, click near the end of your longest track where you want the ad to end, and click into the timeline right about there and be precise. It's like I want that thunder to be faded out. I don't want to cut off any consonants or ends of words. So I get it right about there. I can see that when I click, I'm at 1 minute and 0.221 seconds. So like 1 minute and 2/10 of a second. I click there, and then I just drag. I hold the button down and I drag all the way to the beginning. And I've made a selection now that is 1 minute, 0.23 seconds long, 236. So that's well within the boundaries for this assignment, which it can be anywhere from 59 to 61 seconds. We're good. So I've selected that. I can zoom out a little bit so you can see. Again, can you see the gray area right there? Messed up the time. If you do need to adjust, you can click on these little blue things and that adjusts your in and out points for your selection. So there I have my selection. Now what I do is go up to the File menu and I hit Bounce to Disk. Bounce to Disk. And built-in output stays the same. That's like whatever's coming out of your master channel, that's what we're going to bounce. Yes. File type gives you a choice of WAV, which is uncompressed full quality, or MP3 is our other choice, where it's compressed, smaller file size. Doesn't sound as good. Either one is okay for this project. And then for the format, we don't want mono, we don't want multiple mono files. We just want one single interleaved file. That means stereo. You have your left and your right channels interleaved into a single file. So that's what we want, a nice stereo MP3. with a little bit of seasoning on top, served with a garnish. Sorry. Okay, for MP3s, if you have WAV, let me go to WAV format. You can choose your bit depth. So for WAV format, I would choose, just as a standard, 24-bit, and then for sample rate, 48 kilohertz. If you go to MP3, on the other hand, takes the bit depth option from you. They just go MP3, it's going to be 16-bit. That's CD quality there, but then we'd still keep it at 48. For the file name, it's adding this -1 because I did a practice run, so when you do multiple saves, it adds a suffix for you. But you'd save it like this. For this particular assignment, it says use your last name -bg. So, which is not bougie. That's the name. And then double check the directory. Users, ARC, desktop, Chevy BG, bounced. So what this is saying is on the desktop, I have a session called Chevy BG, that's the name of my Pro Tools session, and Pro Tools is creating a file, or a folder called bounced files. Good. And it's going to save this MP3 into that bounced files folder. That's just what I want. The other option is if it didn't show that, I'd click on choose, and then I would say go to the desktop and go find that spot that I want to save it. And then I'd say open. Okay. Then this little box here that says offline. If I uncheck it, when I hit bounce, it's going to play the entire session and let me listen to it, and I can watch the meter to make sure it's not peaking anywhere. If you got the time, that's a good way to quality check your final bounce. If you're in a rush though, you can hit offline and it'll just calculate for you. It'll just create the file. So I'm going to do that and hit bounce. And I've already practiced, so I'm just replacing my old one. With MP3s, you get an extra window. You don't get this with WAV, but it allows you to say, what do you want to call this? Put the artist, Mark Chevy, BC 250, whatever you want in there. This is the metadata that would display on your MP3 player while you're playing the MP3. So I hit OK, and it's bouncing. There it is. So before I close out of everything, I like to double check to make sure it's good. So I'm going to the Finder, and I'm going to go to the desktop, and I'm going to go to my session folder, Chevy-BG, and look, there's now a folder in there called bounced files, and there is my MP3. If I want to give it a quick spot check in iTunes, iTunes is usually the default for an Apple. I could double click on it. It's going to open up iTunes.
She was all alone in the house. As she walked past the living room, something drew her.
So spooky. I'm going to quit iTunes. So that's a good way to check, like a quick way. A better way would be to bring it into Pro Tools and check your levels. So let's try that real quick. I know it's all good, so I'm going to, well, here, I don't know it's all good. Here's a way that you can do this, is go to Finder and go to Desktop, right back where we were. Chevy VG is my session. Going to that bounced file. I'm going to take that MP3 and I can just drag it into my Pro Tools session. Unbelievable. Look at that. It stuck it in there kind of in the middle of all my other effects, but there it is. It says Chevy-BG. And I can drag that right to the beginning of the timeline. And I'm just going to solo it. So I don't want to hear any other tracks. For my master channel, I want to make sure that's right around 0. Or at least I know that I've brought it down 1 decibel. So whatever shows up in the meter, it's actually 1 decibel lower than what it really is. But I just want to check. I'm going to, here, let me use the transport window this time. Hit this button to go back to the beginning, and I'm going to hit play.
She was all alone in the house. As she walked past the living room, something drew her
And I can check my levels.
The wind rattled the windows as the door blew shut behind her. The dust-covered sconces shed an eerie glow.
So I would listen to that whole thing. And then I could also click on it and see what is the length. 1 minute, 0.288 seconds. So the length looks pretty good. I would listen to the ending.
Only in the Boston Globe.
I got the B on the end of globe. Very nice. So I'm happy with that. That I can tell now my bounced file turned out okay. It turned out okay. We did a good job. So what I want to do now is I don't really need that bounced file in my session. And so I'm going to just click on this track right here, highlight the track, and go up to track and hit delete. You want to delete? Yeah. And now that track is gone. So I was just using it to test my audio, and we're all good. So that is bounced out. I can, that's good for now. The last thing I'm going to do for the final video is show you how to do some file management. And I don't want to close Pro Tools quite yet, so hang on.